Thank you for joining me on another episode of F This or Fix It. Today, well, not today because I've already actually pre-installed these, but today I'm going to review the installation and results of the Gabriel Pro Guard or heavy duty shock that we installed. I ordered these from Rock Auto. Link will be in the description. But Gabriel, part number 61611, rear wheel drive, Pro Guard, $21.79 each. So the price is perfect. One of the main reasons I went with these was because the stroke and the extended length. Because I have the 3-inch lift on the truck, I wanted to buy a shock that had some more extension, more stroke on the actual shock itself. I didn't want to spend $100 each on the shocks, so I was doing some research and I found these. And for my needs, I'm not doing a whole lot of off-roading or anything, so I didn't need anything with a super crazy rebound or extension. But 15.48 inches of extended length, and the stroke is 5.53. So you get about, I would say, about an inch to half an inch more more rebound with this particular shock. I will tell you, I've already installed it, and versus the shocks that were on there, these are 10 times better. Now I don't know actually, but I'm pretty confident the shocks that were on the truck were OEM. So those shocks had 169,000 miles on them, I'm pretty sure. They weren't painted, they had no other stickers, so it's pretty safe to say those are the OEM shocks. The four-wheel drive model, it's the same. They have the same specs, but it does have a different part number. The part number, if you have a four-wheel drive F-150 97 to 03, it's 61613 is the Gabriel Pro Guard shock. Again, I've already pre-installed these. They are night and day versus the old ones. I'm not getting that, like when I take my son to school, they have some speed bumps. Before it would bottom out really, really harsh. I'm not getting that same thing with these, but again, it could have just been because of the age. But overall, they seem really well, and the installation was pretty easy. I don't give this one an F this rating, but I do give it we'll say a C this rating. And the only reason for that is it would be helpful to have a second set of hands to install, but you can do it by yourself. Crowbar will definitely come in handy. It's really the hardest part, so to speak, is getting the shock up and through the spring and getting it lined up. I'll go over some additional things during the video as to how to make that a little bit easier, crowbar, another shock, etc. But let's go ahead and jump on into this video. Here we go. Crowbar comes in handy when you're doing can come in handy when you're doing the shock install. 19 millimeter. I use this for the new shock. That was the size of the nut for the new shock. On the original shock, it was 13/16, and a deep well socket was easily used on the passenger side. There was not room on the driver's side, so I did have to use a regular wrench. Crescent wrench, this helps. I just use this to get to the bolt on the inside of the shock to keep it from spinning. 1/2 inch for the bottom of the shock. 3/4 is the standard size for the top of the new Gabriel shock. 3/4 or 19. You can use an extension, a hammer, doesn't hurt. And then I use this to put some pressure on the bottom control arm, because when you lift the whole truck up, you know, your suspension goes all the way down. So by lifting the bottom control arm up, you can even out your spring and make it easier to get the shock in. Alright, so I used a 13/16 for the top nut on the shock. You'll notice the, I think that's the motor mount. Is that the motor mount? I don't know what mount it is, but a deep well socket will not fit on this side, on the driver's side, because this. So if you have a medium well socket, 13/16, that'll work good. Otherwise, you'll need to use a good old hand wrenching on this one. Then I just used a crescent that you can adjust on there. And then you got your 2 bolts down here. These are a 1/2 inch. So these bolts down here are 1/2 inch. The one on the very top is 13/16. Alright, so here's old versus new. Pretty sure this one's the OEM. I don't think it's ever been changed. Pretty safe to say that's a shock with 169,000 miles on it. Here's the new one. One thing to make note, the washers look identical, but if you look closely, one has a bigger hole than the other. So this one has to go on first, so it slides down the post all the way. And then concave towards the washer. And then this will go, once you get this in the car above the spring, your washer will go on. I mean your bushing will go on, and then your washer, and then your bolt. Just like that. Here we go. Alright, here's an update. So the new shock is installed. The OEM bolt up here, remember, was 13/16. I used a 19 millimeter for the top. The other thing I noticed on these shocks, there's no inside bolt to hold down. So I just put a crowbar in here to put pressure down so that I could get this tight. The other thing, you may or may not need another jack to put pressure on the spring to have the spring go up a little bit. Excuse me. So if you're having trouble getting the spring or getting the shock in at the top, then compress your spring a little bit and you should get it should be an easier angle. You still may need to use a crowbar up here to get this in the hole, but by compressing the whole spindle and shock and everything a little bit, it'll be much easier. Alright, same thing applied to this side. However, the deep well socket, 13/16, there's no clearance issues on this side, so we had all kinds of room. So I was able to get a deep well socket on here, got my adjustable in there, got that all the way off, and same as the other side, you got to get these 2 bolts off here, and it should slide out. Let's see. Alright, that does it. This wasn't too bad. It took about 2.5 hours to complete the install.
I do give this one an F this rating, or we'll say a D this rating. The reason is only about 5% of the install. 95% of it is a one-person job. The 5% that I say is more difficult is getting the new shock installed. They don't always want to line up straight, so if you have a second hand, it could potentially take 15 to 30 minutes off of your install. Just, between trying to get it in the bottom, trying to use a crowbar to get it lined up. It is doable. Obviously, I just did all this in about 2.5 hours by myself, but I would say a second set of hands would be helpful. All in all, it was a pretty easy install. I hope this all helps you out. Thank you for watching F This or Fix It. Take care. See you next time.